Piper is eating stuff again, as you guys know. Okay, let me tag some people because it's late. Hello, Shanice. Welcome. Oh no, is my phone gonna die? Please, phone don't die. Okay, guys. Tonight, I am late. I do apologize for that. I had a dog client tonight and I completely lost track of time and I forgot today was Sunday. So while I'm telling y'all to set a reminder, I need to set my own reminder because Lord, time gets behind me. So before everybody gets in here, if you have not, the reflection on this is bad. If you have not picked up your copy of the financial planner, the Create Sparks financial planner, it is on the site. If you are on my email list, you get a special discount code. So, it's a full year. It's completely undated, so you can start it at any time. This is what I'll be referring to often when I go through these lives. So, yeah. So, somebody posted in the thread about, what do you want me to talk about? What is information you would like me to present on? And one of those topics was buying your first car. So I'm going to go into some detail about buying your first car and how you can be informed, make a smart decision, and get the car and the price that you want. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And as you trickle in, ask your questions and I'll answer them as they pop up on the screen there. Okay, so when you are buying your first car, it can be very overwhelming because you're like, it's so many cars out there. What car do I decide on for me? Okay, so before you actually go to, if you're buying a car from a dealership or at a car lot, you should narrow down at least 5 cars that you think you may want. And the internet makes that really easy to do. So you can look at all the specs. You can look at basically the pricing, specs, pricing, functionality, how's this going to be incorporated into your life. You can look at all those things on the internet. So once you kind of narrow those down, you're going to want to figure out what one makes sense for your budget. So they have those tools on the website where it says, if you put down this, your monthly payment will be this. Or if you put down this and your credit, they do it, they put down what you want to pay this month, what's your credit score, and you can do this. So, that's cute. Hello, Yolanda. So this is research that can be done before you get there. Don't go to a car dealership and you have not researched anything because the salesman is there to sell you a car. So they will literally put you in a car. They have no care what your budget is. They have no care what you want your car payment to be. Their job is to sell you the car with all the bells and whistles that's on their lot to get them their commission. So let's be mindful of that. So you want to do your research so that when you get to the lot, you are informed. You want to be able to say, I know that y'all have this car in white over here, I want to see that car. Buying a car is kind of like buying a house. You don't look at cars you cannot afford. Okay, that's one. So if you are somebody who has, and this is, I'm not talking about nobody when I say this. If you have Toyota money, but you can't be looking at Benzes, okay? You cannot be looking at expensive cars, luxury cars, because you're not there yet, and it's okay. So what happens is you put yourself in the car and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make this car payment, and then you get in over your head, and so now you're working to pay an extremely high car payment when you don't need to, because that's not where you are right now. So same thing with buying a house. Don't look at houses that you can't afford. So don't look at cars you can't afford. That's why I said do your research on the internet, because you can literally do a side-by-side comparison. You can write down all the specs, and you can do your pros and cons of each car before you get to the lot. Okay, so we have done our research. We have narrowed it down to 3 cars. Now we're going to go to the lot, okay? Test drive those cars. You can test drive any car as long as you have a license, which I'm sure most of you do. So go and test drive a car. See how I feel. See how I ride. Now it's going to ride good, because what they do is they put they put soft tires on the car so that when you are driving it, you feel like you're floating in a boat. Literally, a car man told me that. He was like, yeah, we soften up the factory tires so that when you're driving it, it feels so good that you just can't wait to drive it off the lot. I was like, well, thanks for telling me that. But test drive it, and then do not buy. Go home. This is a process. Go home and, see how it feels. Sleep on it. Like, don't make any rash or impulsive decisions at the car dealership. If you're buying a new car, of course, it won't have any miles on it. It may have some miles on it from people test driving it, but low mileage. You're going to want to ask about the maintenance fees, because sometimes the car note is not expensive. It's the maintenance fees. So, like, a BMW, for instance, that's like the top car, one, on the monthly payment that's high, and to maintain it is high. Every single part on a BMW is expensive. They take premium gas. Oil changes are around $200. You break a tire, that's $800. You literally are paying good money, top of the line money, to own a BMW. So if you cannot afford to maintain that car, you don't need to buy that car, because something will go wrong and you will have to be responsible for it. So be mindful of that. Sometimes it's not the car note. Think about the maintenance of the car. So these are questions you're going to want to ask. How much does it take to maintain this car? And that's things that you can research on the internet too, because people are always giving their reviews of a car. You can get on YouTube and find this information out, or you can do a simple Google search, because you're going to want to know how much it costs to maintain that car. Because tires, nails happen very frequently. Oil changes need to happen, all that rotation of the tire, wheel alignment, all that just regular maintenance stuff. And then don't let brakes or something go out. Like, you're going to want to know how much all that is. Okay. So we said do research on the internet, do a test drive, go home, do not buy it. And then you're going to want to figure out if you're going to, of course, finance this car or you're going to lease it. Now, people have their qualms about leasing. I will share with you my own personal experience with leasing. I'm not going to tell you what you should or should not do, but in my personal preference, I will lease a car for the rest of my life. So people will always say to me, well, why would you lease a car? You don't ever pay it off. You're always paying a car note. And I say a car is a depreciable asset. That means the value of it depreciates over time. So that means whatever I paid for it, I'm not going to get my money back for it anyway. So leasing a car makes sense to me, because if it's going to depreciate in value, I'm never going to get what I put into the car anyway. So then they say, well, what about the mileage? Like, you can only drive a certain amount of miles in a year. And I'm like, yes, but if I live in my city limits and my job is in my city limits, I'm not going to put that much miles on my car anyway. If I do want to go out of town and maybe take a road trip, I can either have one of my friends drive or I'll just get a rental car. So that's my philosophy on it. I leased my car when I first got it. One, that lowered my payment My payment was super low when I leased my car. I didn't have to put any money down. And after my 3 years was over in my car, I gave it back. Oh, I didn't give it back. I financed it, but I could have gave it back and got a new one. So my car was a Toyota Camry. The reason I went with Toyota is because they give you 2 years of free maintenance. So they give you all your oil changes is on them. So I went with Toyota because it was cost effective at the time. I was just graduating from college. So it seemed like an economical car. And plus I went in there and said I only want to pay $250 a month. They gave me the car for $255 a month and I was good to go. Plus they did all my oil changes for 2 years. And any maintenance I needed was all, I just had to take it to the dealership and they did it for me. So that made sense to me. At the time I was single. I didn't have anybody to work on my car. So that made sense for me economically. I leased it, but when I went back to turn in my lease, I financed it to own it. It's because it is a 4-door, so it's a good family car. And a Toyota is just a good car. Like, I haven't had any major issues with my car. So I went ahead and financed it for 2 more years to pay it off. And then I drove it. I still have it. My car, even after I paid it off, it did not, your car is supposed to go to shit when you pay it off, but it didn't. The only thing I've had to do was, of course, change the tires, change the brakes, and change the battery. So that was good for me. That worked out for me. Still working out for me. I still love that car. I would go buy another Toyota today if I didn't want a different car. So leasing worked for me, and I liked it. It made sense economically. I probably will never finance another car again because now all I want to do is have 2 doors. I want to have coupes, okay? I want to be young, forever, single, and well, not single because I'm married, but young, sexy, and free. So you get a coupe, right? That's not a family car. So, I won't drive it all the time. So I'm not worried about the mileage. And your payment is lower usually with the lease. And I can just give it back and go get another one or go get another car. That's my philosophy. Cars are depreciable assets, so I do not feel the need to own a car because it does nothing for my net worth to own a car. So that's the difference between leasing and financing. You just have to make the decision what makes sense for you. I don't mind paying a car note every month because you just get used to paying it. So it's like paying DP&L or water. You got to pay that every month that you live in a home. So I have to pay a car note. It's just one of those expenses I'm not worried about incorporating into my budget. You may feel differently. You may feel like you want to own your depreciable asset. I'm just telling you the difference. You do what you do with my advice. So then you make that decision. Then once you are ready to purchase, you go in there with a set number. You say, I'm not spending over this. And if they can't accommodate this or give me this car at this price, then I'm walking away. That is key. Remember, they're salesmen. They're here to sell you a car with all the bells and whistles because their commission is higher. But if you go in there with a set amount that you want to pay, and if they don't give it to you, you walk out. That's it. Because somebody else will give you a car. I'm telling you, they are passing out cars. They will give you a car. If your credit is good, usually if your credit is a 720, you can go in there and set your price. I've done that twice in my life. One was my Camry, and then we went to the car dealership and got my husband a car, and he got a used car. And so I said, I don't want to pay any more than $150 a month for this car. And they let me walk out of there with a $160. They said we can do $160 a month. I said, okay, cool. So we financed his used car for $160, and we financed his used car for $160, and then I leased my car for $255. So I had good credit. So when you have good credit, you can go in there and say, I want to do this, instead of, oh man, I need y'all to put me in a car, I'm in a bind, It's just a different conversation. So when you are determined, when you already know what you want, they can't change your mind, and you won't be swayed by what they say. Like, you won't feel like you need to give in to what they're saying because you're in a situation. So that's why credit is important. We can talk about credit later in if I do another, if I do a video on credit, but that's why that's important, because you get to call your shots when your credit is good. What was another thing? So I talked about leasing and financing. Oh, so let's talk about new or used. So I'm not opposed to buying a used car. However, if you're going to lease a car, you're going to lease a new car. But there's nothing wrong with buying a used car, because like I said, a car is a depreciable asset. It doesn't matter. So you buying it new or used, some people walking in my neighborhood, I'm sorry, I was nosy. I would only literally get a new car if I'm leasing it, like that year. So like 2020, I will only get a 2020 if I'm leasing it. I would never finance a 2020, because if I'm paying, I'll just say $30,000 for a car, the moment I drive it off that lot, it's not worth $30,000 no more. I would buy it if I'm going to finance another car. It will more than likely be a used car, because like I said, it's a depreciable asset. I'm going in there with a set amount. I know what I want to pay and I know what I don't want to pay. So that is kind of my steps. Also, if you're looking at used cars, look at the mileage. So the typical standard mileage breakdown is 3,000 miles. Is it 3,000 miles a month? No. How many miles are you supposed to put on the car in a year? Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Jesus. I want to say it's 1,000 miles a month. So that means at the end of the year, you'll have 12,000 miles on your car a year. Okay. So if you go to work and school, and that's all you do in your car, you live close to your job, you live fairly close to school if you're in school or whatever, you should put no more than 1,000 miles on your car a month. Okay? So you should have 12,000, so 3 years, that's 36,000. Yeah, 12,000 miles a year. So you are buying a used car. Of course, they have driven it before, so it has a certain amount of mileage. You want to do math. So $12,000 miles a year, based on how old the car is. If the car is 3 years old, it should only have around 36,000 miles on it. So you want to look at the mileage. You want to look at the accident report to see if there has been any accidents and what has been replaced on the car, if anything has been replaced on the car due to an accident. There are just certain things, maybe like depending on how old the car, if they had to have a new transmission or a new engine, I would kind of stay away from those things. So those are big things. If your transmission goes out on your car, they have to replace that properly. If your engine goes out on your car, they have to replace that properly. So if it's like a door, I wouldn't be concerned about it. Like if they got hit in the back and messed up maybe the trunk, I wouldn't be concerned about that. But if it was in a front end accident, I would be concerned about that. So mileage, accident report, those are the top things that you want to look for if you're buying a used car. I can't give you any advice on purchasing a car off Craigslist or in a newspaper, because that is something that I have not done. I don't have experience in that area. I've only purchased a car through a private seller, meaning a person was selling a car. But I knew the person, so my very first car in college was a 95 Volvo that my stepdad helped me buy. As far as he connected me with the relationship with the person, I paid for it. And then my second car was the Camry, which I purchased off the lot. And then now I'm going to finance them. All other cars in my life, my husband's car, that was purchased off the lot. And then his car that he has now was purchased off the lot. So that is my experience with cars. So I'm not going to ever educate you on something that I have no experience about. But other than that, I'm doing good on time. So other than that, that is my experience with cars. And I hope this was helpful if you are in the car buying era of life that always comes at a time or two in our life. So I hope I was able to give you some tips around how to purchase your car new or used, and whether to lease or finance a car. And I didn't see where there were any questions. So if you're catching this maybe on the replay, please feel free to ask your questions. And if you're catching this on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. So those of you, this is, the rules of engagement in case you have never been here. These videos will be posted within this group for 24 to 48 hours. As long as they're there, you can catch the replay and ask questions on it. Once I delete this video from the live and post it to YouTube, it will no longer be available for questions for me to answer. I will not answer any questions on YouTube. So with that said, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube so that you don't miss the video. And also make sure you tune in every Sunday at 7. Even if I forget to go live at 7 because something happens, I will either go live later that night and just keep the video up longer so you can watch it. Or I'll tell you ahead of time that, hey, I won't be doing it on Sunday. I'll probably move it to another day. So again, if you don't have your copy of the Create Sparks financial planner, you're going to want to get a hold of this, because a lot of the things that I talk about and how to get you a plan and how to get you started on your finances is going to correlate to something in this book, okay? Where you can put together a budget, where you can figure out how much you can afford for a car, if you can figure out what bills you need to pay off so you can get your credit score up. All of that is going to be here. It's undated. It's 12 months. And I use it every day because I keep my spending in check. So thanks guys for tuning in. I know I'm a little late, but thank you for watching. And I hope this was valuable if you are buying a new car or will buy a new car in the future. So peace.